Me and my friend Ethan decided to go on a drive to meet our old school friends. It was a long trip, about 14 hours, but we decided to share the driving to make it easier. We loaded up his beat-up Ford sedan, packed snacks, drinks, and playlists, and hit the road just after lunch. I took the first shift, and for the first few hours, things felt smooth. The sun was shining, music was blasting, and we were joking about the dumb stuff we used to do back in college. But after about 4 hours, my eyes started to feel heavy, and we switched. Ethan took the wheel while I tried to sleep. Only I couldn't. No matter how I positioned myself, it was impossible to get comfortable. The seatbelt dug into my side, the hum of the tires kept me alert, and every bump in the road jolted me awake again. After nearly 3 hours of tossing and turning, I gave up. When it was my turn to drive again, I was more drained than before. Still, I figured I could push through. I mean, it wasn't like I'd never stayed up all night before. So I got behind the wheel and kept us moving through the quiet stretches of highway. But that's when I made the mistake that nearly changed everything. Ethan's car was old. No fancy dashboard alerts, no warning beeps when gas got low. Just an old school gauge that I hadn't checked even once. Somewhere around 1 a.m, the engine gave a sharp sputter, and before I could react, the car started slowing down. I tried to accelerate, but nothing. We coasted onto the shoulder and came to a stop. That's when I realized the truth. We were out of gas. I felt my stomach drop. Ethan woke up groggy, rubbed his eyes, and asked what was happening. When I told him, he groaned but didn't yell. Instead, he pulled out his phone and started searching for the nearest station. His screen glowed in the darkness, and after a second, he sighed. "The closest one's about 3.5 miles up the road," he said. We were in the middle of nowhere. Flat fields stretched on both sides. Not a single house, not a single other car passing by. The road was so still it felt like it was abandoned. We talked through our options. We could call roadside assistance, but it would cost a small fortune just to get a gallon or two of gas delivered. Eventually, Ethan said he'd walk it. It didn't seem far, and he didn't want us sitting there all night waiting. So with a shrug, like it was no big deal, he stepped out into the night, zipped up his jacket, and started walking. Within less than a minute, he disappeared into the darkness. I stayed in the car feeling like the world's biggest idiot. If I had just filled up earlier, none of this would be happening. I leaned my head back and stared at the ceiling, silently cursing myself. That's when I saw them. Headlights coming from up ahead. At first I felt relieved. Maybe someone could help. But as the car got closer, I noticed something strange. They were moving way too slow, barely 20 miles an hour on a stretch where the limit had to be 60. The vehicle crawled past me and I could feel the driver staring. My skin prickled, but I forced myself not to look directly at them. In my side mirror, I watched as they continued a little further, then slowed down, stopped, and began turning around. My pulse spiked. They rolled past me again, even slower this time, almost at walking speed. I didn't move a muscle, just kept my hands tight on my knees as he crept by. The car lingered for a moment, and I could almost feel eyes boring through the glass. Finally, they accelerated and disappeared down the road. I didn't breathe for what felt like a full minute. Something about the whole thing was wrong. My instincts were screaming that I wasn't safe. And the worst part? Ethan was still out there, walking alone in the dark. I grabbed my phone and called him. It rang all the way through. No answer. That knot in my stomach grew tighter. I tried again. Still nothing. I couldn't just sit there anymore. Locking the car, I stepped out onto the road and started jogging in the direction Ethan had gone. The night was so silent, it made my ears ring. No crickets, no wind, just the sound of my own footsteps and my breath. Every time I slowed down, the emptiness pressed on me. 10 minutes passed, then 15. Still no sign of Ethan. By then, I should have caught up. My heart was pounding and I started fumbling for my phone again. I hit redial. This time, I heard it. A faint ringing. Not from my phone, but somewhere off the road, in the grass. I froze. Looking out across the empty field, I spotted a tiny glow. The faint light of a phone screen lying in the grass. My body went rigid. "Ethan!" I whispered, stepping cautiously off the road. A moment later, I heard his voice, low, urgent, almost a hiss. "Get down." I dropped instantly into the grass, heart hammering, and that's when I saw it. The same car creeping down the highway again, headlights cutting through the dark. They slowed, turned around, and passed by 3 different times. Each time the vehicle crawled along like they were scanning the roadside, searching for something or someone. Ethan stayed hidden until the car finally disappeared. Then he scrambled up out of the grass, grabbed his phone, and pulled me to my feet. "We need to run," he said, his voice trembling. As we sprinted towards the gas station, he told me what had happened. When the car first passed him, it had stopped a little way ahead, and the driver had gotten out. The man had called out, insisting Ethan get in his car. His tone wasn't friendly. It was cold, almost demanding. When Ethan refused, the man stepped closer, and that was enough for him to take off running. The driver had jumped back into his car, probably expecting Ethan to stay on the road. But instead, he had veered into the field and hid in the tall grass. Somewhere in the scramble, his phone had slipped out of his pocket. By the time we reached the gas station, my legs felt like jelly, but the bright lights were the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. We explained everything to the clerk, who immediately let us call the police. We described the car, the driver, everything. But the authorities never managed to track him down. Even now, just thinking about that night makes my stomach twist. If Ethan had accepted that ride, or if I had stayed alone in the car instead of finding him, I don't even want to imagine how it might have ended. All I know is this: never again will I ignore a gas gauge. Because sometimes it's the smallest mistakes that put you in the biggest danger.